Hi, my name is Beto, and today I want to show you how to connect your Notion pages to a custom domain completely free using a tool called NoteHost and Cloudflare, which is a pretty popular way to point your custom domains to any place that you want. Now, if you are like me, you really love Notion, and the reason is because it is in my opinion, a lightweight CMS that can push out information really easily, quickly, with no need for updating code or servers. That's really advantageous to me and my team. So let me show you what I've done here. I have my Notion page of my personal website. This is a little bit more about me. If people want to work with me, they can come. Now, what I wanted to do is not have to point people to this notion.site domain. I wanted my own custom website, my own custom domain. So that's what I did here at betothethird.com. I bought it. Now, how do I post this for free? Let me show you what I did. So first, you add your domain to Cloudflare. And you can see I have some domains here, and I've already set it up for Beto III. And what we're going to do now is try and set it up for my property management company at this location here, pandulce.properties. So you can see right now it's not working, and that's because I had Cloudflare hooked up to another system called Fruition. Now, Fruition was doing the hard work of pointing the custom domain to my Notion pages. But unfortunately, about a week ago, the support for Fruition broke and something happened where you just can't access it anymore. So I poked around a little bit, in particular on Reddit for the Notion subreddit, and found that people really enjoyed using, instead of Fruition, a product called NoteHost. And so that's what we've got here. If you Google NoteHost, you're going to come up with this GitHub page. And if you've already done Fruition, maybe this is a little scary because, hey, this is a GitHub code repository. This asks you to download and set up code, work within the terminal. And what I want to say here is that don't be intimidated by this process. There's actually a very good reason why we might want to set this up with our own custom code. And the good thing is there's very minimal actual coding skills necessary to set up this free domain. So let's dive in to this README here and see exactly how to set it up. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do, we already talked about adding our domain to Cloudflare. The next thing we're going to want to do is make sure that there's no A records or CNAME records attached. So let's go back to our home here. Oh, looks like I might have been logged out. Give it a second. So let's go to pandulce.properties, and we're going to head over to the DNS, the domain name service. Now here, we're going to see a couple of workers which we're about to implement, but no A names or C names. So I'm okay with that as long as there's no active DNS records. Let's go back to our instructions and we see, hey, we're going to create a new worker called Cloudflare and give it this naming convention, your domain Notion proxy. Okay, so the way we do that, just hop on over here on the left hand side, and we're going to see worker routes, and we're going to click manage workers, and then we're going to click create. Now it's pretty simple. All you're going to do is create a worker with this exact same let's get the naming convention over here. So instead of your domain -com, we're going to put on dulce-properties Notion proxy. Now this is saying it's not available because I've already set one up, so I'm not going to set one up with the exact same name, but all you're going to do here is deploy. Don't worry about this code here. So once we click deploy, I'll show you what it looks like. You're going to come back here and you have a worker set up. Awesome. What do we do next? Don't worry about that code again. Now we're going to the code at Cloudflare. Now we're going to work with code in our local machine. And let me show you how we get that running. So I went ahead of time, and let me show you, I created a folder called NoteHost, And then you can see it hosts my code for betoii.com. Now, instead of using the Apple Finder or other way to get into our directory, I'm instead going to open up a terminal. And everyone has a terminal on their laptop, so you should be able to access it no problem. But what you're going to want to do is make sure you're in the working directory. So I won't go through the specifics of the commands that I'm going through here, except to say that I need to move directories. So that's what this cd command is doing. It is saying, change the directory, please. So now that I'm in my desktop, I know that I have a folder called NoteHost, and that's where I want to be. Now that I'm in the working directory, I can get this working npx command to create the folder structure on our own, so we don't have to create it. So let's try out this command. We can even push copy here, paste, and then again, replace your domain. So here we're going to do the domain bundles.properties is the one we want. And we'll do init, initialize this application. Great. So please confirm the domain name bundles.properties. Great, confirmed. And then it wants the ID of our Notion page. Let me show you how to get that. So we're going to go back to the Notion application to where we saw our the pages that we want to list. And this is the home page that I want for bundles.properties. I'm going to go to site settings here, and the Notion ID is always within the URL. So if I copy paste here and I go in between this question mark and the part of the URL that describes the title, right? So here it's bundles.properties. In between those values, and it's usually the end value, is this long alphanumeric string that is the ID for every Notion page. So that's the key of how it's going to tie back into your custom domain. So I'm going to go back to the terminal here and say, hey, this is the ID of my Notion page. Great. The site name, we want to call this bundles.properties. And then site description, I'm going to say renting now in San Antonio, Texas, where my property is located. All right, link preview image URL. I think you can actually come over here and just right click. Yeah, awesome. Let me copy the image address so that we just take the exact same image storage location to load up for our website. Great, ready to generate NoteHost worker. Yes, I am. Let's put yes. Awesome. So our worker is in this directory. Let's go ahead and double check that. Awesome. I got bundles.properties with some new files here. Great. So let's go back to the instructions, see where we are. We have this file structure, and you can read to here to see which what individual file does. And then after we've got it all set up, we're going to want to go into the directory and run npm install. So I'll go ahead and copy this command. And remember, we're not in this directory quite yet. We're in the parent folder. So I'm going to change directory to bundles.properties. And now I'm going to run this command npm install. And now our application should be installed. Excellent. Found 0 vulnerabilities. Now we're going to go over, next step is to configure our domain. So what this means is that the code in our local notebook, our local laptop, needs to be pushed somehow to this worker in Cloudflare. And the way we're going to do that is with an authentication service called Wrangler. So make sure that Wrangler is authenticated in your Cloudflare account. Let's go back to our terminal. We're already in the correct working directory, so we're just going to copy paste npx Wrangler login. And this should need to install the following packages. Great, let's install the Wrangler package. And then it's going to open up our web browser to authenticate that direct connection with Cloudflare. Awesome, we've granted authorization. Now we can close this browser. Great. Now, the next step, we're going to look at the actual code and configure a couple of items. So to do this, you're going to hop into your code development environment. I have probably the most popular one at the moment called Cursor. It's a really great IDE if you want to dive into some of the AI coding that you might have heard about. But we're not going to touch that today. We're just going to edit straight code. And so it asks us to go into this wrangler.toml file and confirm that our name here matches our name of our worker in Cloudflare. Awesome, matched. Next step, edit siteconfig.ts to set up all the necessary options. Great, so here's where we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. We're going to go to siteconfig.ts, and you'll see here that your domain should already be set up here at the very top, pandulce.properties. And then what we're going to be looking for to confirm is that our ID, the correct ID, is here in the slug to page. And what this is saying, by the way, is there's two parts of this line 29. The left-hand side, left of the colon, is saying at the open area of your domain, so this is directly at pandulce.properties, please lead to this Notion ID page. And then if we have pandulce/contact, go ahead and lead to this page, /about lead to this page, or we can even do /about/people lead to this page. Now, my website is pretty basic right now. I haven't created all these individual pages. So what I'm going to go ahead and simply delete these because I don't need them right now. And then I want to point out a couple of other things. You can add in some options that Notion will take and pre-fill for you, including your Twitter handle and your favicon. It's a really good idea when you're building out your web page to do this. One thing to point out, in line 24, we have a Notion domain here, and this is where it's asking you to put in that notion.site URL that we were taking a look at earlier. My suggestion is to leave this commented out for, you see, pandulce.notion.site. It wants that value, but when I was messing with this earlier, it threw off the entire worker and it was not connecting. So let's leave that commented out, and I think that's going to be the way we get this working. We can push any kind of Google font we want, and there's also a really cool feature to add any custom JavaScript into our app, which is really cool. We're not going to mess with any of that right now. I just want to confirm, okay, no custom CSS. We can add in Google tag if we want, and Roboto looks fine for me. And then just to point out here, this is going to handle our www redirects. We can add in custom metadata for any individual page. And then if you want to redirect to a 404 page that you've built, or to a certain page when a 404 error is returned, put it in here. Awesome. I'm just going to leave it as is because we got the core value of what we want. We have our Notion page ID pointing to our domain. So I'm going to Command S and actually save this in my local file. But as you can imagine, if I've only saved on my local machine, it hasn't really been pushed to Cloudflare where I want it to work. So then finally, we are going to deploy, which means we want to push this working code to our site. So I can either open that same terminal, or I'll show you alternatively. Most IDEs have a terminal right inside. And so I already have one here set up. And the nice thing about this is that it's already in your working directory. So if you don't want to memorize all those commands of how to jump around, just open this terminal straight here. And then let's run that deploy script, deploy command really quick. And what this is saying is, all right, we've got our code ready to compile into a worker. Let's compile that. Let's push it over to Cloudflare via Wrangler, and then give me either a success or a failure message. All right, so we got this guy working here. Looks like the page script was built successfully. Awesome. That's good news. And let's give it a second here. It has to do some negotiating with Wrangler. And Wrangler is going to update us here at the bottom and say what happened. Give it a minute. Maybe go grab a cup of tea. Nice little cookie. All right, we haven't gotten our full. All right, there's our total upload. Upload bundle set properties, Notion proxy, and then it gives us an updated version ID of that updated worker. Awesome, cool. So let's hop into Cloudflare and confirm that we had some updates. So in this worker page here, I'm going to go into edit code. And the code for this worker has been compiled amongst all the files that we have in our local machine. And so to actually take a look just of what we edited in that site config file, it's going to be at the very bottom. You can see here it's commented source site config. Here's where we start Pandulce.properties pointing to the ID that we want, and went ahead and deleted those lines that we talked about so we can be sure that it did update. Awesome. So let's go back and say, hey, enjoy your Notion website on your own domain. Now, if we go up here then and click Pandulce.properties, we're still getting the circular icon that says, hey, this isn't working. So there's one more step that NoteHost doesn't include here that I just want to make sure everyone's aware of, and that is we have to point our domain to the actual worker here. So the way we do that is with routes. Let me show you how we get there. It's very, I really like the search feature in Cloudflare. We're going to say, hey, for Pandulce.properties, let's go to the routes. And we can see that it's currently on Pandulce-Fruition, which is my old worker that's no longer working. So that's why it's not connecting right now. If we save this to our new worker, the route to our new worker, it should be good. And the excellent thing about this I want to point out is we're not actively using the DNS system. So normally when you're setting up websites, you have to wait for this propagation of DNS, and maybe it takes 15 minutes, maybe it takes a couple hours. This is all on Cloudflare, so every update should be immediate. You can test it right away. Let's go ahead and test this Pandulce.properties. And we're still getting the circular icon. Now, this was a little confusing to me until I realized that Chrome tends to cache a whole lot of data about websites to make it faster, and I think it still has the old routing cached. So the way we test this is we're going to open up an incognito tab, click into the new URL, and it looks like now we're correctly directing to our website. So awesome. To review, what we did is we went to NoteHost, made sure that our domain was connected on Cloudflare. Then we opened up some code in our local machine. We configured it to the values that we want to configure. Then we connected with Wrangler so that it could speak to and communicate with Cloudflare, make those code updates. And then with this worker fully deployed and the route connected to the domain, it is saying, all right, awesome, for this Pandulce.properties website, go ahead and connect it to the web page. All right, that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you have any questions, give me an email or get in contact with me. You saw my website, and I'll also post the video notes how to get NoteHost so you can take a look at that GitHub page. All right, thanks and happy building.